I come from Zimbabwe. I came to the United States as an immigrant. I came at the age of 19 with nothing but a suitcase full of clothes and the clothes on my back. And I actually worked hard and I went through college, and then I worked for a bank for a while. And I was able to create a successful business. By the time I was 27 years old, I had a 7-figure business. I had several employees, and I was living the American dream. So when I hear this narrative that America is systemically racist and evil and oppressive to minorities, I understand that to be completely false. So so that's what inspired me to write the book, because I'm starting to hear this narrative from the left. It is something that was in the dark corners of far-left Twitter and the dark corners of far-left universities, but it has been thrust into the mainstream, particularly after the George Floyd incident. And it was right then, when that happened, when I started seeing my family and my friends starting to parrot this very narrative, including my own pastor, who was now putting Black Lives Matter decals on the church windows. It really grieved my spirit to see people adopting this ideology, and I know it to be completely false. And as somebody who pays attention to politics, I know that Black Lives Matter is an organization that is a self-proclaimed Marxist organization. They're anti-family. They're an organization that does nothing for Black people. They're an organization that basically fundraises for the far left. But they peddle themselves as a civil rights movement. And I think that's the message that they put out there, and Americans are falling for it. So I wanted to write a book that would educate people so that they understand that this narrative that is coming from the left, it's not designed to help Black people. It is designed to racially divide America and conquer it from within. It is a Marxist ideology, and it is designed to tear America and rip the country apart racially.
Now, Marxism, cultural Marxism, socialism, communism, it comes in many different forms.
Yes, it
and
does.
Marxism has many different heads. Can you draw the contrast? I heard you speaking, and you had said that coming from Zimbabwe, you were able to see communist and socialist elements at work there, and you can also see them at work here. Can you draw that contrast?
Yeah, absolutely. So coming from Zimbabwe, we had some cultural Marxism that came into the country as well, because we also have two races in Zimbabwe. We have white people and we also have Black people. And during the time that we had a land redistribution form, and we had a president that was creating division between the white farmers and the Africans, the indigenous Africans during that time. So I start to see the parallels between how, everything is blamed on one race, which is considered an oppressive race, versus another race that is considered oppressed. So I start to see that parallel that's starting to happen here, where, we're getting the same narrative that if you're Black, you're oppressed, and if you're white, you're an oppressor. And it's regardless of your own experience or anything that you've done. So it is just painting a broad brush. So being that I have experienced it in my own country, it is something that I was able to pick up on very quickly. And I think a lot of Americans are not seeing it, and that's why I've really become vocal about it, because I want people to understand that this narrative that America is systemically racist is not just being done as something that is designed to help the country or bring unity, which is what it purports to do, but it is actually designed to create division within the country.
Communism or Marxism is a complicated and sometimes hard to understand concept. So a lot of people don't even realize, if you don't understand the concept, you can't recognize it.
Yes.
So I think, does your book try to educate people and let them see those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the book, I actually talk about how socialism and Marxism comes in different forms, as you mentioned. And one of the things I talk about is, the economic side of the cultural Marxism as well. Seizure of property, private property, is something that happened in Zimbabwe, and the result of that was devastating for the country, because commercial farms were completely seized by the government from private owners, and that's what was driving the economics in Zimbabwe. So when you seize those properties from private owners and the government seizes them, we saw a complete drop in production, which was actually bringing in the money that was creating the countries and driving the country's economy. With that, the jobs went as well, and Zimbabwe just was completely devastated economically. Jobs, I think unemployment went to 80%. We had the worst inflation in history, worse than Germany in Weimar Republic. At the height of it, we were printing $100 trillion notes, and that could just buy you maybe a bag of groceries at the grocery store. So, and, personally, my mother went through, she lost everything that she had ever saved for, her entire life savings. So you can just imagine, let's say you have $200,000 in your 401k and you wake up the next morning and you find that it can only just buy you maybe a chicken or a piece of meat at the grocery store, and then you just lose everything. So it's a very dangerous ideology, and that's why I feel really called to speak out against it and to warn Americans that we really need to fight against it. We need to unite. We don't need to, fall into this fall into the division, fall into the trap that they're trying to set for us, is to divide us on race, divide us on gender, divide us on sexual orientation, and all these things. And you can see it happening, and it's designed to just create balkanization within the country, destabilization, and then eventually conquering it for Marxism.
Is it fair to say that one's destiny is largely predetermined by one's skin color or their country, or not?
Well, definitely not your skin color, but if you are born in America, you're a privileged person right away, no matter what color you are. And I think that's kind of something that Americans don't understand, and I wish more Americans would travel around the world so they can get a different perspective, because when you come to other countries, like in Africa, where I'm from, and you see how other people live, and then you see how Americans live. The poorest American, is very wealthy around the world. They have a very high standard of living, but I think most Americans don't understand that. So I think it would be good if people would travel the world. Well, I don't know now with COVID, but so they can get a little bit of exposure and really appreciate that America is truly the land of opportunity. It is a place where you can come, like I did, with nothing, and actually work your way out of a low class into a higher class. Whereas in other countries, for example, in Zimbabwe or a lot of countries, in fact, the class system is very rigid, and it's very hard to move from one class system to another. There are not very many ladders of opportunities from one class to another. So,
what would your message be to the people of color in America who may not be too clear on some of the principles and concepts that you've talked about?
My message to the African American community is I want them to understand that this narrative is designed to destroy the Black community as well. So not only is it destroying the country, it is also destroying the Black community, because if you are told that you're oppressed and you can never amount to anything because there's somebody holding you back, then you're not even going to try. It's going to become a mindset. It's going to affect the choices that you make, and then it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this narrative is not only dangerous to the country, but it's dangerous to the African American community, because I want the African American community to know that no matter what color you are, you're able to do anything in this country.